Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We're going to go ahead and start group 4. So group 4 is ages 14 to 17. The book was The Message of Gurbani, Japji Sahib, by Dr. Gurbaksh Singh. Okay, so the questions were: 1. The first 2 pauris of Japji Sahib focus on hukam. What is hukam? How do you accept hukam in your daily life? If everything is in Vaheguru's hukam, do we have any free will? Question number 2 is: the 15th pauri of Japji Sahib references Mok Duar. What is Mok Duar? How do we find Mok Duar? What prevents us from finding Mok Duar? And then question number 3 is: Ik Onkar embodies the idea of oneness. Based on what you have learned from Japji Sahib, how have you lived your life so far? What do you need to improve to achieve oneness? So for this group, the time allotted is 7 minutes. So the first bell will ring at 6 minutes 30 seconds, and then 7 minutes, and then the third bell will be at 7 minutes 30 seconds. So our first participant for this group will be Anup Singh.
Vaheguru, Vaheguru.
This is Anup Singh.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਹੁਕਮ ਕੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਆ? ਹੁਕਮ ਗੁਰੂ ਦਾ ਉਪਦੇਸ਼ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਹੁਕਮੀ ਹੋਵਣ ਆਕਾਰ, ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਈ। ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਬਣਦੇ ਹਨ, ਪਰ ਇਹ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਫਿਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਹੁਕਮੀ ਹੋਵਣ ਜੀ, ਹੁਕਮ ਲੈ ਵਡਿਆਈ। ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਜੰਮਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਦਰ 'ਤੇ ਸੋਭਾ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ। ਹੁਕਮੀ ਉੱਤਮ ਨੀਚ, ਹੁਕਮ ਲਿਖ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਪਾਈਐ। ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਚੰਗਾ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਭੈੜਾ। ਉਸ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਹੋਏ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਲੇਖੇ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਦੁੱਖ ਤੇ ਸੁੱਖ ਭੋਗਦੇ ਹਨ। ਫਿਰ ਫੁਰਨਾ ਉੱਠਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਰੋਜ਼ਮਰਾ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਹੁਕਮ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਮੰਨੀਏ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੱਤ 'ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੱਟ ਲੱਗੀ, ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਰ ਮਸਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਉਦਾਸ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਇੰਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਾੜਾ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਦ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦਾ ਹੁਕਮ ਮੰਨ ਕੇ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਦੁੱਖ ਭੋਗ ਕੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਭੈੜੇ ਕਰਮ ਕੱਟੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦੀ ਹੁਕਮ ਪਛਾਨੈ। ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ ਕਿ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੀ ਸੋਝੀ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਫਿਰ ਸਵਾਲ ਖੜਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਨਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਹੁਕਮੈ ਅੰਦਰ ਸਭ ਕੋ, ਬਾਹਰ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਕੋਏ। ਸਭ ਜੀ ਰੱਬ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਕੋਈ ਜੀ ਹੁਕਮ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ। ਫਿਰ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਆਪੇ ਬੀਜ ਆਪੇ ਹੀ ਖਾਓ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਰਮ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਚੰਗੇ ਜਾਂ ਮਾੜੇ, ਉਸ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਨ। ਇਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹੋ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਵਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਰੋਟੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਪਈ ਹੈ, ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹੱਥ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਹਨ, ਮੂੰਹ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਕੁਐਸਚਨ 2 ਆਨਸਰ। ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਕੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ? ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਮੰਨੇ ਭਾਵੈ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ। ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਦੇ ਸਿੱਧੇ ਅਰਥ ਹਨ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਦਾ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ਾ। ਮੁਕਤੀ ਹੈ 84 ਲੱਖ ਜੂਨਾਂ ਵਾਲੇ ਚੱਕਰ ਚੋਂ ਨਿਕਲਣਾ ਅਤੇ ਮਾਇਆ ਤੋਂ ਨਿਰਲੇਪਣਾ। ਮਾਇਆ ਮੋਹ ਸਭ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੈ, ਦੁੱਖ ਬਿਨ ਸੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਰੋਏ। ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਮਾਇਆ ਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਦੁੱਖ ਹੀ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ। ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਣੀਏ ਕਿ ਮਾਇਆ ਦੋ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਪਹਿਲੀ ਪੈਸੇ ਅਤੇ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਦੁਨਿਆਵੀ ਪਦਾਰਥਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੋਹ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਕ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੋਹ, ਘਰਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਆਦਿ। ਫਿਰ ਸਵਾਲ ਉੱਠਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ? ਜੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਦੀ ਲਗਨ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਏ ਤਾਂ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਕੂੜ ਤੋਂ ਖਲਾਸੀ ਪਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਰਾਹ ਲੱਭ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਇਕੱਲਾ ਆਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਤਰਦਾ, ਪਰ ਆਪਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਨਾਲ ਤਾਰ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਫੇਰ ਨਾ ਪਵੈ ਜਨਮ ਮਰਨ ਦੁੱਖ ਜਾਏ। ਜੇ ਗੁਰ ਮਿਲ ਪਏ ਤਾਂ 84 ਲੱਖ ਜੂਨਾਂ ਵਾਲਾ ਫੇਰਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਂਦਾ, ਜਨਮ ਮਰਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੈਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਦੁੱਖ ਦੂਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਪੂਰੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੁੜਿਆ ਤੇ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੀਨ ਹੋਇਆ, ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਬਿਨ ਕਰਤੂਤੀ ਮੁਕਤ ਨਾ ਪਾਈਐ, ਮੁਕਤ ਪਦਾਰਥ ਨਾਮ ਧਿਆਈਐ। ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਰਜਨ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਚੰਗੇ ਕਰਮ ਕੀਤਿਆਂ ਬਗੈਰ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ। ਉਸ ਭਲੀ ਪੂਰਨ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਉਣ ਨਾਲ ਮੁਕਤੀ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਹੈ, ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੀ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿਉਂਦੇ ਜੀ ਵੀ ਮੁਕਤੀ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਅਤੇ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨੂੰ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਨਾਜ਼ਰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਮਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਦੁਨੀਆਦਾਵੀ ਇੱਛਾਵਾਂ ਹਨ, ਉਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਤੋਂ ਪਰੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਮਾਇਆ ਅਤੇ ਕਾਮ, ਕ੍ਰੋਧ, ਲੋਭ, ਮੋਹ, ਅਹੰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਜਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਸਾ ਛੱਡਦੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਕੁਐਸਚਨ 3 ਆਨਸਰ। ਅਸੀਂ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਇਕਾਗਰਚਿਤ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ? ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਾਣੀਏ ਸਾਡਾ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਕੌਣ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਇੱਕ ਓਅੰਕਾਰ। ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਓਅੰਗ, ਜੋ ਇੱਕ ਰਸ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਹਰ ਥਾਂ ਵਿਆਪਕ ਹੈ। ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਮਾਫ਼ ਕਰਿਓ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਰੇਕ ਦਿਨ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਉਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾਗੂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ। ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 4 ਪੌੜੀਆਂ ਸੁਣਨ ਦੀਆਂ ਆਖੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ 4 ਪੌੜੀਆਂ ਮੰਨੇ ਦੀਆਂ। ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣੀਏ ਅਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਮੰਨੀਏ। ਜਿੰਨੀ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਸੁਣੀ ਅਤੇ ਮੰਨੀ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਲਈ ਕਿ ਇਕੱਲੀ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਨੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾਗੂ ਵੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ। ਲਾਗੂ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਣਾ, ਵੰਡ ਛਕਣਾ, ਕਿਰਤ ਕਰਨੀ, ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਨੀ, ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਅਤੇ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੀਵਨ ਜਿਉਣਾ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ। ਅਸੀਂ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਨੇੜੇ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ? ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਾਈ ਦਾ 10ਵਾਂ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਕੱਢੀਦਾ, ਉਵੇਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ 10ਵਾਂ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਸੁਭਾਸਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੱਢਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਘੱਟੋ ਘੱਟ ਸਾਨੂੰ 2.5 ਘੰਟੇ ਦਿਨ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਆਚਰਣ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਹੋਵੇ, ਦੂਜਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਵਧੀਕੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਹਾਰਨ ਜੋਗਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਸਮਝ ਉੱਚੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਵਿਸ਼ਾਲ ਹੋਵੇ, ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਹਿਰਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟਿਕਿਆ ਰਹੇ, ਸੇਵਾ ਦੀ ਘਾਲ ਘਾਲੇ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਰੀ ਮਨੁੱਖਤਾ ਦਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਦਿਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਵੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਨੈਕਸਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਸ਼ਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ।
Vaheguru. Vaheguru. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह हुक्म अंदर सबको bahar hukum na koi. In Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji paves the path to understanding our purpose in the universe. Accepting hukum is the only true path to inner peace and contentment. But truly, what is hukum? I find that taking hukamnama best answers this question. In hukamnama, we surrender ourselves to the will and voice of Vaheguru. Hukum. We open a page at random from the Guru Granth Sahib Ji and receive guidance. Hukum, therefore, is the divine voice, the divine will, the underlying law that governs the fate and outcomes of the universe. And it's easy to accept this hukum in our life when things are going well. However, when things go wrong, it becomes much more difficult. Because in the same way that an ant cannot conceive the size of its forest, we can't understand the full picture of our existence. So we trust in hukum, God's view, omniscient view of the bigger picture, and are taught in Japji Sahib to understand that everything that happens is right, because Vaheguru has willed it so. That is hukum. Fortunately, the solution to always accepting hukum, no matter the situation, is actually rather easy to implement in our daily lives. To find fulfillment in the journey, not the destination. For example, last year I had a soccer tournament in San Antonio. We had driven for 5 hours Friday night and woken up early on Saturday, only to find that the whole tournament was cancelled due to weather. At the time, I was quite disappointed, but I accepted it as beyond my control. I went home and I studied for the next phase of an economics competition instead. And this year, I was able to win state at that competition thanks to my test score from last year. So at the time, although I was extremely disappointed, in the bigger picture, Vaheguru actually gave me the best possible outcome, even if I only realized it much, much later. In addition, hukum breaks the illusion of free will, because accepting the idea of free will means that what I do is separate from the divine. Whereas Gurbani teaches us, Ekonkar, that there's one divine vibrating through everyone. So if I'm a part of this universe, what am I freeing myself from by having free will? Essentially, we aren't a separate entity within the universe. So we don't have any personal free will, then hukum, the free will that is dictated and within everyone. There's only one will in the universe, hukum. There's no individual distinct free will beyond that. So free will does not exist. In the 15th Pori of Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, Mane pave muktuar. Muktuar means the door to liberation or salvation. So when we enter Muktuar, we attain eternal peace in Vaheguru's presence by escaping the endless cycle of life and death. What is it though that we're liberating ourselves from? What is Muktuar? Muktuar is a shifted mental state, no longer on the roller coaster of pleasure and pain, happiness and sadness. A person who has achieved Muktuar has a stable internal state, no matter what happens in the external environment, good or bad. They're in a constant state of peace, contentment, and love, no matter what happens in their external environment. To achieve Muktuar and this unbreakable frame of mind, one must liberate oneself from bad deeds. However, first I'm going to establish what prevents us from finding Muktawar, then I will explain how we overcome this and how we achieve Muktawar. Is dehi andar panj chor basaye, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankar. Kam, desire for what we don't possess. Krodh, frustration. Lobh, greed. Moh, excessive attachment. And Hankar, ego. These are the vices that prevent us from having the stable internal mind I talked about earlier. And they prevent us from having the mental stability necessary to achieve Muktawar. Jin mil mare panj surbe, aise kaun bali rahe. Guruji asked for a warrior who can defeat these 5 vices that prevent us from finding Muktawar. So, to do this and to ultimately achieve Muktawar, we must embody Sat, truthful conduct, Santok, contentment, Daya, compassion, Dharam, unity, and Sach, the supreme truth. Such is the most important in achieving Muktawar because we can fight egoism with such, which is the truth of Ikonkar, the truth that dispels any ideas of the self, that truth that dispels anything that inhibits the mental framework required to enter and find Muktawar. Awal Allah nur upaya, kudrat ke sub bande, ek nur de sab jug upja, kaan ple ko mande. At the heart of Japji Sahib lies Ikonkar. Ikonkar encourages us to lose ourselves and to realize the unity swirling within the universe. However, knowing is often not the same as doing, and in the life I've lived so far, there's ample space for improvement, specifically within my internal dialogue. I've striven to embody Ikonkar and treat everyone I meet as a brother or sister. I spent close to 100 hours on charity service in the last year alone. However, on this journey, I've lost sight of what should have been my foremost goal: unity. When I see others sin, I automatically label them as lazy, rude, and malhearted. Remembering Ikonkar and the unity within us, other sins are my sins and my sins are their sins. Therefore, when I believe myself to be morally superior to another person, I lose sight of Ikonkar and I fall prey to ego. Now, facing this flaw, how can I improve myself to achieve oneness? Just as the ocean currents swirl trash from a dirty beach and taint a faraway pristine coast, Ikonkar connects us all within the universe. So, I must cleanse myself as to not dirty others and cleanse others as to not dirty myself. So the next time I see someone act wrong, I must do 2 things. Internally, I should empathize with them for sinning instead of viewing them as a bad person. Externally, I should lovingly attempt to stop the person and help them see why what they're doing is wrong. If I see a soccer player yelling at their teammate, I should check up on the player who made the mistake, regardless of whether they're on my team or the opponent's team, because achieving oneness means seeing beyond the distinctions society has put in place between us, not just on the soccer field, but in every single walk of life. It means treating everyone as your brother or sister, no matter the situation. Once you have lovingly accepted hukam in your life, you are at the Muktawar, and from there, all you can see is oneness. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Our next participant is Tejas Singh.
Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Hukam na jane botha rove. One who does not know hukam cries out in terrible pain. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. Mahan Kosh, the great dictionary written by Bhai Kahan Singh Nabba, describes hukam as pavitr niyam, the divine law, or something sacred happening everywhere. Gravity, sound, and light are scientific and work according to their own laws. Hukam is a universal law which controls the solar system, mountains, oceans, and all living beings. Consider hukam as a reality. If we are all sitting here listening to speeches, this is hukam. Hukam is not a forceful order, but a loving guidance for all. It is impersonal and teaches us to accept both dukh and sukh. Sad Sangat Ji, so how must we follow hukam? Hukme andar sabko, bahar hukam na koi. Nanak hukme je buje, ta home ke na koi. First, we need to acknowledge that all of us are subject to his hukam and no one is beyond his hukam. We will have to surrender our body, mind, wealth, ego, and everything to the Guru. And that's how we will accept hukam in our daily life. We must have love and trust in the divine, which will automatically make us fall in love with hukam. We live in reality, but the mind keeps saying that reality is not good enough. And due to this difference, we suffer in pain. We will follow hukam once our mind starts accepting the outcomes of reality. So then the question arises, with hukam, do we have any free will? Hukam in daily life is a concept that needs to be learnt and understood, and is practiced by bringing one's thinking in line with hukam. It does not mean that we should set ideal and not have a free will. You can follow your goals as long as you are honest, truthful, and ready to embrace and accept the outcome of his hukam with no resistance. Tera pana meetha lage. Sad Sangat Ji, Vaheguru has given us free will to become Gurmukh or Manmukh. It is up to us to make choices and decisions to overcome our ego by following the teachings of the Guru. Instead, some people remain self-centered, consumed by greed and ignorance. Manne pave mokh duar. Manne are the ones who have fully accepted hukam and they achieve mokh duar. But what is mokh duar? Is it a physical door or is it something we encounter after death, high above in the sky? Mokh duar is often described as the ultimate goal of spiritual practice, where the soul merges with Vaheguru after transcending ego, attachments, and worldly desires. It is a mind transformation in which the pain and pleasure cycles no longer shake the inner stability of a Gursikh. So how can we achieve Mokh Duar? The 3 pillars of Guru Nanak Dev Ji are direct entry into the door of liberation. Naam Japna, dissolving ego and remembering the divine. Kirat Karna, working hard and earning honestly. And Vanchakna, sharing with others no matter how much you have for yourself. A Gursikh seeking Mokh Duar should start walking on a path within himself and continue deeper and deeper, longing for the lotus feet of Karta Purak. Raj na chaho, mukat na chaho, manpreet charan kamlare. Anger, greed, attachment, and ego are obstacles which prevent us from achieving the state of Mokh Duar. Jab hum hote, tab tum nahi. No individual can reach the stage without taming the world of inner chaos. Karmi ave kapra, nadri mokh duar. Essentially, if we do not cleanse our mind and soul of any lingering manmukh traits, we will be unable to receive his grace, obstructing our path to Mokh Duar. Ik Onkar represents the concept of unity, highlighting the indivisible and singular nature of the divine, while also rejecting any notion of separation of God. Oneness implies one creator permeating through all of its creation. Nako beri nahi bigana. I have lived my life being influenced by Maya, Home, and recognizing myself different from God. Now, since I'm a different identity, not associated with God, it gives my mind the opportunity to differentiate people. There are some people I like, and there are some people I don't like. Why do I like someone? because they make me feel good, they say nice things and feed my ego. I don't like someone if they say bad things about me and hurt my ego. When Guru Nanak Dev Ji says Nirvair in Japji Sahib, he is saying the exact opposite to what I just mentioned. Guru says that I should treat everyone the same and see oneness in all of them. Like Bhagat Namdev says, Sab Gobind hai, Sab Gobind hai. Gobind bin nahi koi. God is everything, but without God, there is nothing at all. We are all aware of the unfortunate event which has happened in Pahalgam. If I keep blaming one specific person or community because someone did something wrong, I don't understand the meaning of oneness. The concept of ik says that we are all part of one vast ocean, with each of us being unique waves, rising and falling back into the ocean as part of its eternal flow. Sad Sangat Ji, I am committed to strengthening my dedication to the principle of oneness. As long as ego exists, oneness will never be a reality for me. Jab hum hote, tab tum nahi. I am will have to disappear. If I am is looking for God, I will never be able to find God. I am has to go away, and when it does, all that will be left is God. I have to develop the understanding that God is here and God is everywhere. I am not giving this speech, ik is giving this speech. Ik is listening and ik is judging. No singular person among the participants will be the winner. Ik will be the winner, meaning we are all winners. If we all develop this understanding, and the person who triggered the Pahalgam terror attack also develops the same understanding, the world will be a better place to live. In conclusion, Vaheguru resides within us all. By following his hukam, we can experience his bliss and oneness, ultimately leading us to Mokh Dua. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
Our next participant is going to be Jasleen Kaur.
Oh, it's allowed, but okay. हाँ जी माइक थोड़ा ऊपर हाँ जी थोड़ा सा हाँ जी वाहिगुरु
This is Jasleen Kaur.
Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. When Guru Nanak Dev Ji emerged from the waters of the Wain River, after being submerged in it for 3 days, the first words he spoke were Na koi Hindu, na koi Musliman. There is no Hindu and there is no Muslim. With this, he challenged the divisions of society at the time and revealed the fundamental truth, that we are all one people. Japji Sahib, which is Guru Nanak Dev Ji's first composition, is not just a prayer. It is a revolution in thought. It teaches us how to break free from ego, how to walk the path of truth, and how to connect with Vaheguru through Hukam, Mok Duar, and Ik Onkar. These lessons are timeless, and they've guided Sikhs in every era and in every aspect of our lives. So the first two pauris of Japji Sahib, they talk about Hukam. They emphasize it, the divine command that governs all existence. But Hukam ki hai? Hukam is Vaheguru's order. It is the unseen force that controls everything. But from the rising of the sun to the beating of our hearts. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji says that Hukme andar sabko, bahar hukum na koi. Everything is within Hukam and nothing is beyond it. Accepting Hukam in our daily lives means accepting both Sukh, which is happiness, and Dukh, which is sadness, with the understanding that everything is unfolding within Vaheguru's command. How I accept Hukam in my daily life is that when I have a bad day, when I fail a test or lose at a debate competition, two things that are very, very important to me, I don't come home, cry about it, and stop chasing my goals. I realize that Vaheguru has already set a path for me, and that everything is happening within his jurisdiction. And if I stop there, I will never be able to get the benefits of the path that he's laid out for me. But this kind of raises a question. If everything is within Hukam, do we actually have free will? And the answer is yes, because free will lies in how we personally respond to our lives. Homme or ego makes us believe that we can control everything. But true peace actually comes from surrendering to Vaheguru. And when we see that Guru Arjan Dev Ji accepted martyrdom, he didn't complain. Instead, he said that Tera kiya meetha lage. Your will is sweet to me. Vaheguru's will is sweet to me. If we adopt this kind of mindset, we will stop resisting life and start embracing the divine will, or panna. Further down, in the 15वीं pauri of Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak Dev Ji talks about Mok Duar, or the door to liberation. But how exactly do we reach this door? The answer lies in three main things. The first is Nam Simran, or meditating on the Guru's name. The second is Nirmal Jivan, living truthfully and honestly. And last is Seva Te Karan, selfless service and compassion. However, Mok Duar isn't just a door to the afterlife. It is a state of being that we can achieve right now by freeing ourselves from Maya, or worldly attachments. Ego, or Homme, is the biggest obstacle that's keeping us from this door. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Ahankar, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and pride keep us from this door because they are the chains that bind us. A true Sikh like Pai Lena Ji found Mok Duar by surrendering to the Guru's command, transforming into Guru Angad Dev Ji. To find Mukti, we must do the same. Follow Guru Di Sikhiya with full faith and devotion to be able to achieve Mok Duar, or reach the door of liberation. The Mool Mantar in the first pauri of Japji Sahib, it begins with Ek Onkar. It tells us there is one creator. This is the very foundation of Sikhi, because it reminds us that Vaheguru resides in all beings, regardless of their dharam, religion, jat, caste, or rang, color. But do we truly live by this principle? When I look at my own life, I realize that I have not always embodied Ek Onkar. I remember a time when I had a conflict with my close friend, somebody I'd known since middle school, and I kept thinking कि मैं सही हाँ ते ओ गलत है. My ego made me hold on to the resentment even though I knew that I should let it go for the sake of my friendship. But then I got to thinking, if Vaheguru resides in them just as he resides in me, how can I actually hold hatred in my heart? This realization humbled me. So I reached out to her, apologized, and we remain friends to this day in high school. Ek Onkar isn't just about believing in oneness, it's about living it every day. Our actions matter more than our words. We must always try to accept Ek Onkar, and we must live it every day in how we treat people, how we think, and how we love. Guru Nanak Dev Ji traveled far and wide, preaching this very message. He preached equality and broke down social barriers worldwide. And as Sikhs, it is our duty to carry this mission forward. We must see Vaheguru in all beings and love without discrimination. And practice Sarbat Da Pala, welfare for all. Japji Sahib, to conclude, is not just a prayer. It is a roadmap for every Sikh's life. Hukam teaches us samarpan, or surrender. Mukdwar guides us towards mukti, or liberation. And Ek Onkar reminds us that we are sab-ik roop. We are all one people. If we live by these teachings, we walk the path of the Gurus, the path that they decided we must walk on, and we draw closer to Vaheguru. Sacha marak pehchaniye, gur ki bani loch. Homme chadke jeevan jage, ta mile prabjot. Truth is the path known to the Guru's words. Let go of ego, awaken life, and find the divine light. May we all strive to embody these principles in our daily lives. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. Thank you.
Our next participant is Divjot Singh.
Vaheguru. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਕੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਸਤ ਸਰੂਪ ਹੈ, ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਬਣੀਏ। ਭਾਵ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਉਸ ਸੱਚੇ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਹੈ। ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ 'ਤੇ ਅਮਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਆਨੰਦ ਸਰੂਪ ਬਣ ਜਾਈਦਾ ਹੈ। ਆਦਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਧਾਰਮਿਕ ਪਾਠ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਗੋਂ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਸ਼ਵਕ ਅਤੇ ਆਤਮਕ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਦਾ ਐਸਾ ਰਾਹ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸਾਰੀ ਮਨੁੱਖਤਾ ਨੂੰ ਆਨੰਦਮਈ ਜੀਵਨ ਜਿਉਣ ਲਈ ਮਾਰਗਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਪੂਰੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਸਾਰ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਸਤਿਕਾਰਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਆਓ ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਡੂੰਘੇ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਸਾਂਝ ਪਾਈਏ। ਇਹ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਨੂੰ ਸੱਚ ਦੇ ਰਾਹ 'ਤੇ ਲੈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਣ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਧ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਹੁਕਮ ਕੀ ਹੈ? ਹੁਕਮ ਹੈ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਇੱਛਾ, ਉਸ ਦਾ ਆਦੇਸ਼, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਅਧੀਨ ਸਾਰਾ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਆਖਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੀ ਹੁਕਮ ਦੇ ਅਧੀਨ 'ਚ ਹੈ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਹੁਕਮੈ ਅੰਦਰ ਸਭ ਕੋ, ਬਾਹਰ ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ। ਪਰ ਇੱਕ ਮਿੰਟ, ਕਿ ਰੱਬ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਅਧੀਨ ਚਲਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੋਈ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਨਹੀਂ? ਕਿਤੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਗੁਲਾਮੀ ਦਾ ਦੂਸਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ? ਨਹੀਂ। ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਲਾਚਾਰੀ ਜਾਂ ਅਧੀਨਗੀ ਸਮਝ ਲੈਣਾ ਸਾਡੀ ਅਗਿਆਨਤਾ ਦਾ ਸਬੂਤ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਹੈ ਅਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਹੁਕਮ ਨਾ ਜਾਣੇ ਬੱਪੜੇ, ਭੂਲੇ ਫਿਰੇ ਗਵਾਰ, ਮਨ ਹਟ ਕਰਮ ਕਮਾਵਦੇ, ਨਿਤ ਨਿਤ ਹੋਏ ਖੁਆਰ। ਆਓ ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਣ ਦਾ ਯਤਨ ਕਰੀਏ। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਹੋਵੇ ਅਤੇ ਬੀਜ ਹੋਣ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਬੀਜ ਬੀਜਣ ਦੇ ਮਾਲਕ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਬੀਜ ਉੱਗ ਕੇ ਦਰਖਤ ਬਣ ਜਾਵੇ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਏ ਕਿ ਫਲ ਬੀਜ ਦੇ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਗੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਲੱਗਣ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਸੰਭਵ ਨਹੀਂ। ਬੀਜ ਬੀਜਣ ਦੀ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੈ, ਫਲ ਦੀ ਚੋਣ ਦੀ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ। ਇਸੇ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੋਣ ਦੀ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੈ। ਕਰਮ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਫਲ ਨਾਲ ਬੱਝ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਇਹ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹੁਕਮ ਸਾਡੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਥੋਪੀ ਗਈ ਕੋਈ ਰੱਬ ਦੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਗੋਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਤਾਲਮੇਲ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਚੱਲਦਿਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਤੇ ਪਰਮ ਆਨੰਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਪਰਮ ਨਿਯਮ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ। ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਜ਼ਾਨਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਪਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਵਿਸ਼ਵਾਸ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਹੁਕਮ ਮੰਨ ਕੇ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਸੁੱਖ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਹੰਕਾਰ ਪੈਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਅਤੇ ਜੀਵਨ 'ਚ ਕੁਝ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਏ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਦੁੱਖ ਆ ਜਾਏ ਤਾਂ ਇਤਮੀਨਾਨ ਬਰਕਰਾਰ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਇਸ ਢੰਗ ਨਾਲ ਜੀਵਨ ਜਿਉ ਕੇ ਹੁਕਮ ਮੰਨਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਵੱਲ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਇਹ ਉਹ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਨਮ ਮਰਨ ਦੇ ਚੱਕਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਕਰਵਾ ਕੇ ਮੁਕਤੀ ਵੱਲ ਲੈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ, ਹੁਕਮ ਮੰਨ ਕੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ਾ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ 15ਵੀਂ ਪੌੜੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਮੰਨੈ ਪਾਵੈ ਮੋਖ ਦਵਾਰ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਕਾਸਮਿਕ ਲਾ ਭਾਵ ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਬੰਧਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਚੀ ਅਤੇ ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮੋਖ ਦਵਾਰ ਤੋਂ ਵਾਂਝਾ ਰੱਖਦੀ ਹੈ? ਹਉਮੈ, ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਲਾਲਸਾਵਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਅਗਿਆਨਤਾ। ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨੇ ਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਰਾਹ ਦੇ ਕੰਕਰ ਹਨ। ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਵਾਲੇ ਭਰਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਸ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਮੋਹ ਮਾਇਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਵਾਚ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਸਦਾ ਹੀ ਸੱਚ ਦੇ ਰਾਹ ਤੋਂ ਭਟਕ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਤੇ ਪਰਮਾਨੰਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੂੜ ਦੀ ਪਾਲ ਭਾਵ ਕੰਧ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਤੋੜਨਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਲਈ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਣ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਬਦਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਪਣਾਉਣਾ ਪਵੇਗਾ। ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਪਛਾਣ ਕੇ ਸਭ ਕੋ ਮੀਤ ਹਮ ਆਪਨ ਕੀਨਾ ਦੇ ਮਾਰਗ ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਪਵੇਗਾ। ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾ ਮੂਲ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਦਾ ਅਰਥ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ, ਇੱਕ ਜੋਤ ਜੋ ਸਾਰੇ ਸੰਸਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਆਪਕ ਹੈ। ਜਪਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਇਸ ਏਕਤਾ ਨੂੰ ਬੜੇ ਸੁੰਦਰ ਢੰਗ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਉਹ ਫਰਮਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਏਕਾ ਮਾਈ ਜੁਗਤ ਵਿਆਈ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੇਲੇ ਪਰਵਾਨ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਤਾ ਭਾਵ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸ਼ਕਤੀ ਅਤੇ ਜੁਗਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੀ ਸ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਟੀ ਰਚੀ। ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਇੱਕ ਤੋਂ ਹੀ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰ ਫਰਮਾਨ ਹੈ, ਸਭ ਮੈਂ ਜੋਤ ਜੋਤ ਹੈ ਸੋਏ, ਭਾਵ ਸਭ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਹੀ ਜੋਤ ਸਮਾਈ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਨੂੰ ਅਪਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੇ ਜੀਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਹਜ਼ੂਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ 'ਚ ਝਾਤ ਮਾਰਦਿਆਂ ਮੈਂ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਮੈਂ ਹਉਮੈ ਅਤੇ ਮੋਹ ਦੇ ਫੇਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਸ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹਾਂ। ਕਦੇ ਕਦੇ ਭੁੱਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਭ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਹੀ ਜੋਤ ਵਿਆਪਕ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਗਾਨਾ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਵਹਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਰਕ ਪਾ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਹਾਂ। ਪਰ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਦਾ ਸੱਚ ਦੇ ਚੱਲਣ ਦੀ ਸੇਧ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਏਕਤਾ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਪਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅਵਲ ਅੱਲਾ ਨੂਰ ਉਪਾਇਆ ਕੁਦਰਤ ਕੇ ਸਭ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਤੇ ਪਹਿਰਾ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਮਨ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਸਭ ਨਾਲ ਨਿਮਰਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਾਲ ਪੇਸ਼ ਆਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਅੰਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹਾਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜੀਵਨ ਜੀਵਨ ਦਾ ਸੱਚਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਦਰਸਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਹੁਕਮ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਨਣਾ, ਮੋਖ ਦੁਆਰ ਦੀ ਖੋਜ ਕਰਨਾ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਨੂੰ ਜੀਵਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਤਾਰਨਾ, ਇਹ ਹਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਦੇ ਮੁੱਖ ਮੰਤਵ। ਆਓ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਭ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਇਸ ਰਾਹ ਤੇ ਚੱਲੀਏ ਅਤੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਨਾਲ ਜੀਵਨ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਥਕ ਬਣਾਈਏ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
That concludes group 4. Can we do a Jakarta for them, for all the participants in group 4? Bole Sonehal Sriakal. Okay, so now we're going to move on to group 5. We're going to give the judges a couple minutes to finish writing.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬੀੜ ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਧਰ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਹਾਲ 'ਚ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਸੀਗਾ, ਖੰਡ ਪਾਠ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੀਗਾ। ਉਹ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬੀੜ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਣੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਖੜੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਈਏ। ਆਉਣ ਹੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੈ। ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਜੱਜਿਸ ਆਰ ਰਾਈਟਿੰਗ, ਦੈਟਸ ਓਕੇ, ਵੈਨ ਦੇ ਕਮ ਦੇ ਕੈਨ ਸਟੈਂਡ ਅਪ ਟੂ। ਸੋ ਵੀ ਵਿਲ ਟੇਕ ਦੈਟ ਟਾਈਮ ਬਿਫੋਰ ਵੀ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਦ 5th group.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We're going to go ahead and start group 5. So group 5 is 16 to 22 years old. The theme is Guru's Way as the World View through the Lens of Asa Ki Var. So, question 1 is, how can the philosophical and ethical tenets embedded within Asa Ki Var be effectively utilized to shape a contemporary Sikh worldview and subsequently serve as a foundational framework for disseminating the Guru's message in the world today? Question 2 is, how can the teachings and symbolism within Asa Ki Var be applied to facilitate personal introspection and community reflection, enabling Sikhs to assess their individual and collective adherence to the Guru's principles and identify areas for spiritual growth and communal improvement? And question number 3 is, Asa Ki Var addresses issues of social justice, inequality, human imperfections, and spiritual liberation. How does this Bani offer hope and optimism to overcome these challenges? Cite specific examples or experiences from the Sikh world around you to support your view. Oh, okay. Okay. And then, so the time for this group is 8 minutes. The first bell will ring at 7 minutes 30 seconds. The second bell will be at 8 minutes, and then the third bell will be at 8 minutes 30 seconds. Our first participant for this group will be Jobin Singh.
Check. Vaheguru. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. In an era marked by materialism, moral dilemmas, and denial of equal rights, Asa Divar offers an eternal beacon of light, illuminating a path of righteousness, service, and spiritual enlightenment. Asa Divar preaches the oneness of humanity, encapsulated in Mool Mantra with Ek Onkar. Guru Nanak Dev Ji strongly rejected divisions based on caste, gender, and religion, emphasizing equality for all. Whether it's a woman facing workplace discrimination or blacks facing police brutality, as Sikhs, it is our duty to be there to help the systemically oppressed. Guru Nanak Dev Ji also denounced corrupt leadership in Asa Divar, criticizing rulers who exploited their people. This timeless teaching calls upon Sikhs today to uphold ethical leadership in all spheres of life, whether in business, politics, or community service. Similarly, his teachings on material detachment remind us to balance our worldly desires with our spiritual pursuits. In an age dominated by consumerism and wealth accumulation, Sikhs must remember that true wealth lies not in riches, but in seva, simran, and righteousness. Moreover, Asa Divar reinforces that it is not enough to simply acknowledge societal wrongs. We must actively combat them. From feeding the hungry to standing against systemic discrimination, the Sikh ethos calls upon us to be warriors of truth, compassion, and justice. The principles of Kirt Karna, Van Chakna, and Nam Chakna are equally critical. Whether in business or employment, every Sikh must commit to ethical conduct, rejecting corruption and deceit, inspiring all to embrace a life of truth and righteousness. Sikhs must harness the power of collective action by forming a strong voting bloc to support leaders like Ravi Palla and Harmeet Dillon, who uphold equality, justice, and service. By backing policymakers who champion religious freedom and ethical governance, we extend Guru Nanak's vision into modern institutions. Active participation in democracy ensures that our voices drive meaningful change against corruption and injustice. At an individual level, Asa Divar serves as a tool for personal introspection. Guru Nanak Dev Ji warns us against the vices of ego, greed, and hypocrisy, flaws that exist within us all. Choti le pakhanda, naam leya jai taranda. Guru Nanak Dev Ji warns against being consumed by the panch chor, the five vices: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Ahankar. These vices cloud our judgment, distancing us from Vaheguru and leading us astray from a life of righteousness. True spiritual growth comes not from outward appearances, but from the virtues we cultivate within. Guru Nanak Dev Ji emphasizes that ethical living, rooted in compassion, contentment, self-discipline, and truth, is the true mark of a devout person. Daya kapa santok sooth jat gandi satvat, ej neo ji ka het pandegat. These lines serve as a direct rejection of superficial religious practices that do not transform one's character.
Asli Devar urges us to examine whether we live by Sikh values of seva and righteousness, or merely present an illusion to the outside world. Beyond personal reflection, our Sikh institutions must also assess their adherence to Asli Devar. Are our gurdwaras truly upholding equality, or are they divided by societal biases? Are our leaders transparent and accountable, or have they succumbed to self-interest? As a community, we must engage in open discussions, Sangat-based dialogues to address these issues. We must hold Gurdwara committees responsible for the disvan they receive, rather than just assuming it's used according to Sikh principles, especially if we as a Sangat remain passive observers. The question remains, how do we disseminate these ideas effectively in today's world? In the digital age, Sikhs must leverage technology, media, and community outreach to spread the Guru's message globally. Social media, podcasts, and digital platforms can be powerful tools to educate and inspire. Likewise, engaging in interfaith dialogues and community service projects can allow us to embody Sikh values in action, strengthening our presence and impact in society. We can organize waste collection efforts to help both spread awareness about Sikhi and help our environment. While Asli Devar highlights social injustice and inequality, the Bani also offers hope through faith, humility, and spiritual liberation. Guru Nanak Dev Ji rejects casteism and promotes universal equality. Jaat janam na puchiya, sach kar le bataye. This principle is embodied in Langar as one of the core practices of our faith. Langar is a place where everyone sits on the same level and everyone eats the same food, regardless of who they are or where they come from. In times of adversity, Asli Devar reminds us it's staying rooted in Naam Simran, Chardi Kala, and Gurbani gives us the strength to persevere. Go nanak sach dhyaya, such hove ta sach paya. Through these principles, Sikhs can cultivate a mindset that refuses to succumb to despair, instead turning struggles into opportunities for growth and service. Naam Simran helps us remain steadfast despite life's trials, as exemplified by the ordeals and sacrifices made by the Gurus. Chardi Kala, the Sikh principle of eternal optimism, teaches us to approach every challenge with courage and unwavering faith. Gurbani illuminates the path of righteousness, even in the darkest of times. Today, Sikh organizations and NGOs continue this mission by supporting marginalized communities and advocating for human rights. Dr. Sulaiman Singh has helped support the farmers' protest in India, giving up his career as a doctor, acting as a modern reflection of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings. Through legal advocacy and community outreach, Saldef fights against discrimination, reflecting Guru Nanak's message of equality and fearless resistance against oppression. Sikh youth initiatives integrate these teachings, promoting mindfulness, integrity, and service to society. This symposium exemplifies these values, encouraging self-reflection and empowering youth like me to create meaningful change in the world. In an era of stress and uncertainty, Sikh institutions like the Sikh Coalition and the Guru Nanak Society provide spiritual guidance and community support to help individuals navigate life's challenges. Humanitarian efforts like Khalsa Aid and Sikh-led environmental activism reflect Guru Nanak Ji's teachings in action. By embodying the values of Asli Devar, Sikhs can continue to foster equality, compassion, and justice, ensuring that the Guru's message remains a guiding force in the modern world. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
The next participant is Simran Kaur.
Waheguru.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Asa Ki Var teaches that true spirituality is not about outward rituals, but about transforming one's character. Mindlessly saying Vaheguru or listening to Kirtan and Path on 2x speed when you're in a rush does not lead to spiritual growth. True Sikhi, as emphasized in Asa Ki Var, requires the elimination of ego and the practice of righteousness in daily life. Simply repeating Vaheguru does not guarantee the spiritual progress. Think about all of the elderly people who have attended countless of Simran programs, Diwans, Samagams, AKJ, Dodra, and yet their character does not reflect the virtues of a true Sikh. Gurbani clearly states, Bin antar ankar na paiye, bani both bichari. Asa Ki Var teaches that spirituality is not about external appearances, but about inner transformation. Gurbani even warns us, Bahar Gyan Dhyan Isnana Antar Lob Lobhavanya. Attending Gurdwara and engaging in Simran or singing along with Kirtan should be meaningful. But if one immediately engages in gossip, mockery, or unethical behavior, their actions are contradicting the very teachings that they just listened to. Sikhi is about how we live and not just what we recite. To effectively share the Guru's message today, Sikhs must embody these values rather than just preach them. By internalizing the teachings of Asa Ki Var, by rejecting ego, living truthfully, and practicing justice, Sikhs can cultivate a strong and moral foundation. Spirituality is not just about looking religious or engaging in rituals. It should be about becoming a better person through your actions and not just your words. Only by embodying Sikhi in everyday life can the Guru's message be upheld and shared with the world. Growing up, I believed that being religious meant following rituals, waking up early, reading prayers, doing your nitnem, and visiting the Gurdwara. However, learning Asa Ki Var with Gyani Ji and doing my own research at home made me realize that Guru Nanak Dev Ji warns us against blind ritualism. One line that struck me was, Je hat dehi ta mat na dehi. Je mat dehi ta hat na dehi. This verse made me reflect. Was my worship sincere, or was I just going through the motions? Every Sunday, I would do Matha Tek to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I would sit through Kirtan, yet my mind was somewhere else. I was either scrolling to my phone, whispering with my friends, or thinking about my plans for the day. It was a routine, something I did because I was supposed to, rather than because I felt connected to it. One day, when I was doing Langar Seva, I caught myself rushing through the motions. I was handing out plates and smiling at people, but I was feeling so impatient, thinking about when I would be done than what I was actually doing. Later, as I reflected on Guru Nanak Dev Ji's words in Asa Divar, I realized how empty my actions were. My hands were serving, but my heart wasn't. Asa Divar was reminding me that true seva is not about being physically present. It's about being mentally and spiritually engaged. This led me to a deeper introspection. If my prayers and my seva were the routine, was I really growing spiritually? Guru Nanak Dev Ji teaches us that true devotion comes from sincerity and not just show. I realized that I needed to change my approach and not just do my path and recite my prayers, but I needed to understand what their meaning was and not just serve longer, but I needed to serve longer with love and be present when I'm giving longer to everyone else. Asa Kivar delivers a powerful message of equality, challenging outdated notions of purity and impurity that are still persisting in so many cultures today. In my own life, I have witnessed how societal and religious customs continue to impose restrictions on women. For example, I have a Hindu friend who wasn't allowed to enter her mandir because she was on her period. Similarly, my Muslim friend couldn't pray because she was menstruating. These restrictions made them feel excluded, as if they were impure because of a simple, natural, biological process. However, Asa Kivar directly rejects the idea that a woman becomes impure due to menstruation and instead emphasizes that your true impurity is in your thoughts, in your words, and in your actions. Man mela, tan mela, mele mel paranje. Nanak nave bajo, duje param pulanje. This reflects the idea that true impurity is not physical, but it lies within your mind through greed and falsehood and lust and slander. Gurbani repeatedly warns that real filth is attachment to anything other than Vaheguru, which is eventually just going to lead you to a spiritual downfall. Jo rahe so uttam hoye, milral pave dargah soye. Na o mal na mail maloye, jo challe har pei so hoye. This Shabad makes it so clear that purity is not determined through your body, but by your character and your morality. Asa Kivar emphasizes how harsh or deceitful tongues can harm one's own mind and soul. Sikhi is rooted in fairness and equality, and no one should be excluded from their faith due to gender or caste or societal norms. In fact, we should reflect on which things we are deeming so important to consider when our own Guru is telling us to focus on something else. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings in Asa Kivar remain just as relevant today as they were centuries ago, whether it's standing up for women's rights or rejecting false notions of purity. Asa Kivar provides the foundation for a progressive and just society. By internalizing these values, we can challenge outdated traditions and create a more inclusive world, just as Guru Nanak Dev Ji envisioned in Asa Kivar. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Our next participant is going to be Mehek Kaur. Wait, move it.
Vaheguru. Vaheguru Ji da Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji di Fateh. Asa Ki Var is a timeless Bani which is written as a Varta, which narrates the war we fight against our daily enemies, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Ahankar, which is the antagonist that stops us from connecting with the divine and finding peace. The protagonist, representing wisdom, shows us how to defeat these enemies through Nam Japna and Seva. The Bani's teachings on equality, selfless service, and spiritual growth are still relevant today, helping us overcome the same struggles of inequality and inner conflict that we face today in a modern society. In November 2023, I had the opportunity to visit India and stay in the Pind for a week. One of the highlights of my trip was experiencing Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab and Nagar Kirtan back in Punjab. As we walked to the Gurdwara Sahib, I noticed several other Gurdwaras along the way. Curiously, I asked my family back home, why are we heading all the way to the furthest one for Guru Nanak Dev Ji's celebration? They explained that the other Gurdwara were for different groups like Tarkans, Valmiki, Ramguriyas, and Ravidasya, and didn't belong to the Jat community. This struck me deeply, especially since it was Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab celebration. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the same Guru who preached against caste and division, he would have opposed such segregation. The philosophical teachings of Asa Ki Var, such as equality and humility, directly challenge these divisions. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings emphasize that all people are equal within the eyes of God, regardless of their social background or caste. These teachings encourage us to break down social barriers, promoting a worldwide view based off of equality. By embracing this, Sikhs can foster unity and live lives centered on the truth. The Punjabi caste system has historically led to inequality and discrimination, especially when it comes to marriage and social status. Despite Asa Ki Var challenging these divisions, caste-based discrimination persists today. Many face resistance when marrying outside their caste or lack opportunities within the community. Sikhism calls for dismantling these barriers and promoting unity through seva, simran, and living truthfully. These teachings emphasize that spiritual growth and human dignity come from connecting with the divine and not what your social class is. As a high school student myself, I often feel overwhelmed by grades, tests, and college pressures. However, learning from Asa Ki Var, I've learned that Nam Simran can help clear my mind and bring peace, keeping me focused and grounded. The teachings remind me of our shared connection through God, helping me approach conflicts with empathy and patience by recognizing that there is divine in everyone. Despite these teachings of equality, gender inequality remains prevalent within the Sikh community, particularly in our own Gurdwaras. Sikhism teaches that there is no difference between the soul of a man or a woman, emphasizing spiritual equality. Guru Nanak Dev Ji clearly states, Pand jamiye, pand nimiye, pand mangan vyao, pando hove dosti, pando challe rao, pand moa, pand paliye, pand hove pandan, so kyo manda akhiye, jit jamme rajan. From woman, man is born. Within woman, man is conceived. To woman, he is engaged and married. It is through woman that future generations come. Why call her bad who gives birth to kings? Sikh teachings uphold gender equality, rejecting the notion that women are inferior, affirming their central role in both societal and spiritual life. Yet women still face significant barriers. The Rayat Maryada states that any Sikh can perform kirtan, yet women are excluded from key spiritual roles such as Granthi, Panch Pyare, and Ragi Jatha, and prohibited from carrying the Palki Sahib during Prakash or Sukhasan at Harminder Sahib. These practices contradict the core teachings of Asa Ki Var, which stresses equality between men and women. As a daughter, I've often questioned why I've never seen a woman perform kirtan at Shri Harminder Sahib. I wonder, will I or any future woman kirtani will ever be able to perform there? To truly embody Guru Nanak Dev Ji's vision on equality, the Sikh community must bridge the gap between Asa Ki Var's teachings and current Gurdwara practices, empowering women to take on equal spiritual responsibilities. This includes advocating for women to play key roles alongside men within our community. Moreover, statistics from Punjab show a troubling practice of female feticide. According to the 2011 Census of India, Punjab had a gender ratio of 846 females per 1,000 males, significantly lower than the national average. This highlights the ongoing issue of gender-based discrimination within our community, again contradicting the teachings of Asa Ki Waat. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message of gender equality calls for the protection and respect for all, regardless of gender. Addressing this within the Sikh community is critical for living out the values of equality and compassion that Asa Ki Waat teaches us. True Sikhi is about how we live: truth, compassion, and humility. To honor Guru Nanak Dev Ji's teachings, we must live by them every day, breaking our ego, our pride, and our divisions. Now we should ask ourselves, are we truly following Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message? Are we just trying to appear religious and go through the motions of our day because it said so? Because Asa Ki Waat is not just Bani to be recited. It's a mirror to look within, to examine our hearts and our actions, and to truly connect with the divine. Guruji warns us, Andro chute pej bahar, dunya andar phail, atsat tirat je nave utre nahi mail. This means that there are false within, but they display outwards honor. Even if one bathes at the 68 sacred pilgrimages, the filth of ego and sin is not washed away. The truth is, without cleaning your heart of ego, pride, and falsehood, you cannot truly connect with God. Asa Ki Waat doesn't tell a story, but it focuses on how to become a spiritual being, a devta. Guru Nanak Dev Ji warns us against empty rituals and the tricks of priests and monks like tying strings and believing in false superstitions, emphasizing that true spirituality comes from building character and removing ego, selfishness, and pride. Even kind and religious people can suffer from spiritual pride and use righteousness to justify harmful actions. Ego, when regulated, is part of a healthy self-awareness, but when driven by pride or wealth, it becomes destructive. Satgur mile sada mukt hai, jin vicho moh chukaya. Meeting the true Guru brings liberation by removing inner attachment. Uttam e vichar hai, jin sache syo chitlaya. The highest thought is to keep one's consciousness focused on the true Lord. Ego is most dangerous when hidden behind false holiness, manipulating others' ignorance. Asa Ki Waat teaches that humility and love are far more powerful than any ritual. Only with the Guru's guidance can we overcome attachment and illusion, align with the truth, and walk a path of righteousness and peace towards spiritual liberation. Vaheguru Ji da Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji di Fateh. Our next participant is Sehaj Kaur. Vaheguru, Vaheguru.
गुरा एक दे बुझाए सबना जियां का एक दाता सो मैं विसर ना जाए वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह Sad Sangat Ji, Asa Diwar, the ballad of hope. Not only is it said to fulfill hopes and dreams, but more importantly, Asa Diwar gives us a chance to transform. Jin manas te devte kiye, devte kinda. In a time where every single function of God, the sun, the moon, the earth, was given an individual devta, an individual deity, Guru Sahib Kandya that my God can transform mere mortals into these devte. But how do we do that? How do we become a function of God? Balhari gur apne deohari sadwar. Sacrifice, we surrender, give up the sense of me. Forget that you are anything important, that you as a person, your sense of self, your individuality exists at all. It doesn't. E jag sache ki hai kothadi, sache ka vichvas. All natural living beings are a physical manifestation of that Nad Guru, that vibration, that Sach that is behind us all. And Sach, Sache, Sab Tarn, Sache, Sab Jor, Sach is more than truth, Sach is permanence. Jo mar jamme, so kach ne kach. Neither I nor you are permanent. We will live, we will die, but that Sache Padshah, that is permanent. Once we realize this, that I am no different than you, or the trees outside, or the sun and the moon, we will stop feeling anger when our peers outdo us. We will stop feeling smug when they fail. This is our worldview, Sangat Ji. Every being is a manifestation of Akal Purakh. If I am to serve that Akal Purakh, I must serve their creation. And our Das Guru showed us exactly how to do that. First, Pehle Padshah ne Babar nu Jabar kya. Then, the fifth Guru ne apna sees ditta. Fir nove Guru ne kise hor dharam li apna sees ditta. And then only did Guru Gobind Singh Ji ask for the sixth to give their cease. So we disseminate this message of Sach by becoming Sach ourselves. But how do we do this? To explain, I'll apply Asa Diwar to my own life. Simmal rukh saraira, at dirag, at much. Standing here before you, I may seem like an upstanding person. I can do kirtan, I can speak well, I do well academically, but oye je aave aas kar, jaye nirasa kit. When those birds come to look for my seeds, when Dharamraj comes to judge the righteousness of my time here, I will not pass the test. Phal phikke, phal bakbuke, kam na aave pat. From inside my seeds are filled with ashes. I am useless to everyone. Sabko nive aapko, parko nive na koi. When I do kirtan, I think I performed so well. Will people give me praise? When I speak, I think I prepared so well. I hope I win. When I take exams, oh, I studied so hard. I must have gotten a good grade. But what is the common denominator here? Homme tirag rog hai. My ego is the ultimate disease. Am I doing kirtan for my praise or the praise of my Guru? Did I prepare my speech well, or did Guru Sahib bless me with the ability to speak? In all of these cases, I am loyal to no one but myself. And that self doesn't even exist. And this is in my personal case, but what about that of the community? Pehle Padshah specifically states each and every false practice, many of which we do today. Padiye jeti arja, padiye jete saas, Nanak lekha ek gal, hor homme chakhna chak. Many of us do our daily nitnem. We listen as the Granthi Sahib takes hukam. But what is the point, Sangat Ji, if we have no idea what we're reciting? Baupek kiya dehi dukh diyan, sove jiya apna kiya. We can dress up in our barna, we can come to the Gurdwara, put our names in the ardas when we donate, organize a Khand Paths. But as long as we continue to perform for ourselves and use this seva to fuel our homme, we will continue to feel that rog. And Sangat Ji, I have felt that rog. I have felt that bairag of separating from my Guru. But homme tirag rog hai, daru pi is mahe. I have felt that pav too, that reverence, that blissful pain of separation that has carried me back to my Guru as well. So now, we know what our issue is. We know what our human imperfections are and what we need to do to attain spiritual liberation. But, karam milay taan paiye, hor hikmat hukum khuar. Only Akal Purakh chooses to bestow that grace of Naam to us. So what do? Now tera nirankar hai, na laiye, narak na jaiye. Sangat ji naam japo, khul ke japo, teet ho ke japo. Don't ask for useless material desires, beg for naam. Beg for that gyan, that sach. Jo mangya thakur apne te, soi deve. And once we are blessed with that naam, with that sach, we become the hope and optimism for others in the world. Oni manda pair na rakhyo, kar sukrat taram kamaya. We must speak up for justice against the norm at every step to make this world better. If we keep reciting Gurbani without understanding and implementing it, we are exactly who Guru Sahib is criticizing. One great example of transformation is Deep Sidhu, who understood the political corruption Punjab was in at the time. And although not having a background immersed in Sikhi, he took a stand and transformed in absolutely no time. Jin manas te dev te kiye, karat na lagi var. Sangat ji, right now we are in a deeply concerning state of global politics. In our own country, the Trump administration recently invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 in order to deport and detain Venezuelan immigrants. Historically, this act has been used to justify the detainment of Japanese Americans during World War II. Reports say over 200 deported immigrants were killed or tortured upon arrival to their home country, and yet last week, the president of our country says he doesn't know if US citizens have a right to due process. Our Fifth Amendment, by the way. In our motherland, the innocents of Punjab and Kashmir live under the daily fear of bombs and missiles while their governments recklessly attack civilians under the guise of eliminating terrorists. Known terrorist bases? With what proof? With what evidence? How is it known? Because the only casualties we've seen so far are those of poor farmers. And as we watch this rise of nationalism, this sensational patriotism taking over Hindustan, we may wonder why this always seems to happen right before the elections. Sangat ji, this is modern day injustice. This is corruption. This is cruelty, murdering innocents for monetary gain, political gain, and for power, for votes. This is the injustice we must fight, and this is the darkness we must dispel. In my own life as president of the SSA, I have began to take action to collaborate and organize informational sessions and discussions surrounding these current matters. Because Sangat ji, if we don't speak up about injustice today, there will be no one to speak tomorrow. So let us speak up, let us fight this injustice together. Vaheguru ji ka khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki fateh.
So that concludes Group 5. Can we do a big Jakara for all the participants in Group 5? Bole Sonehal, Sat Sri Akal. We're going to take a quick break just to finalize all the results. If everyone could come back to the Diwan Hall around 3:30. Okay, sorry, 3:45. 3:45.